Welcome to the Airpower Airwaves, the Airpower Manufacturing Solutions podcast series where we talk about manufacturing issues that impact you. Hey, it's Travis Stirewalt. Welcome to another episode of Airpower Airwaves, and today I have two guests. That's right, I have an Airpower specialist, and I have a guest from the north. You're not escaping the cold because it's June.
Yeah, it's nice here now.
Yes, it is. All right, I've got Mike Elberson. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Travis.
You are with Autoquip.
I am.
You've been with Autoquip for a long time.
Almost 30 years.
All right. Well, the amount of time that I've been out of college. So there we go. All right, good. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And I have Darren Stone. Darren, how are you?
Oh, good. How about yourself?
So I worked for you for my first, 6 years?
Something in that range.
With Airpower, and I have a great relationship with Darren. Darren, this is his first podcast with Airpower, so I expect him to be involved for sure. No, you're going to be great. That's why I chose you. All right, so we're going to talk about a few things here, but before we do, if you have any questions of anything you hear in this podcast, 1-800-334-1001. Always remember, we have all of these episodes available. We've done, 11 or 12 episodes a year. We're in our fourth year. So there's a lot of videos to watch, a lot of conversations, and a lot of topics. AirpowerAirwaves.com for all the podcasts. And I think there's a link there for the Audible podcast as well. So if you want to hear it in your car, while you're driving down the road, go that way and you can listen to it. Or there's always YouTube, our Airpower Manufacturing Solutions channel on YouTube. You can catch everything there, every training video that we do. So the other website and the main website you need to remember is airpower-usa.com. And I say that because Autoquip, our guest today, Autoquip also has a brands page on our website. So you can find out a lot more. If you want to look at that while you're listening to this, go ahead. There's information about Autoquip there as well. So without further ado, we're going to get some introductions in a way. Mike Elberson, you're with Autoquip, obviously.
Yes, I am.
And I got the logo right here.
Yeah.
So I figured that. Tell us a little bit about your history with Autoquip. You are the president of Autoquip, correct?
Well, I've moved on from president because we're a young company. We now have a young president,
okay.
David Culbertson.
Okay.
So I'm the owner of Autoquip, but I've moved on to a technical advisory position.
Okay. All right, fantastic.
So Autoquip has been around 75 years. It was started by my father-in-law, Dick Capstrand, in 1948. In 94, I joined 95, I joined Autoquip. And I've been vice president, then president, now technical advisor.
Okay, fantastic. He joined Autoquip the year my oldest son was born, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. 1995 was a big year in my world. Darren.
Yes, sir.
You are a long timer with Airpower as well.
I've been here a couple of years.
With the retirees in the last few years, you're in the probably the top 2%.
Yeah, I think I'm close to the oldest. Most tenured, let's say.
Did you and Scott Lambeth started around the same time, right?
We did. I started in March of '84.
Okay.
So I just celebrated 40 years with the company.
So what was your first job with Airpower?
Warehousing, emptying trash cans, sweeping the floors, putting up stock, waiting on the counter.
Janitorial engineer.
Absolutely. It was probably one of the best jobs you could ever have.
Fantastic. And what's your title now?
I am an application engineer on our finishing team.
Yep.
So focus on helping our customers with hopefully all things finishing.
So for those of you out there that think that nobody has a job for that long and you have to switch around, there are still a lot of people that have worked for that organization and put in the time. You've held a number of titles in this company. You've held a number of responsibilities in this company, even since I've been here.
Yeah.
10 years?
I've worn a few hats and tried to help out where I could. So
Absolutely. All right, Mike, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I want to know, and I know everybody wants to know, just give us a brief history of Autoquip. Where did it start? How did it start? What was the driving force behind it?
Originally, the Richard Capstrand worked for Lincoln Pump, and he met a man in Chicago who there's two Autoquips in the U.S. One of them is in Oklahoma, and the other one is in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. Originally, they were the same company, but they split. Dick Capstrand took the Autoquip, his part of Autoquip, and went to Wisconsin, and was really involved in the plumbing and sales of lubrication equipment, lifts, and exhaust reclamation equipment. So that was the initial Autoquip. I joined in '94 with a different background and took the company towards the finishing world. So Autoquip in I guess it was '95 I joined. Autoquip since '95 was focused on first the installation of robots. That was where I came from, was the paint robot world. Okay. And then from there into finishing equipment.
All right, so your exposure was much prior to you starting with Autoquip.
Yeah.
Did you have finishing experience before Autoquip?
Yeah, well, from the time I was probably 9 years old, I had interest in making things change color.
Okay.
I joined the DeVilbiss company in '81 in their robot applications division. Stayed there until '92, moved to Wisconsin, joined Graco in '92 to '95, and that's when I went to work for Autoquip. '95.
All right. Excellent. So we talked a little bit about Richard Capstrand, and also when he started the company, the main products. I want you to go over that really quick again. The main products that he had when he started the company.
He sold aero pumps. He sold Champion compressors, and I guess I don't remember the hoist name, but those were the three products that he integrated into. Back when there were filling stations where cars were easy to work on, and there was 3 gas stations on many corners, and if you needed a tune-up, you didn't take it to the dealer, you took it to the local gas station.
It's kind of the similar story to Airpower. Airpower starts out, finding a need here in High Point with the furniture industry,
right,
and starting out with one product, and now what are there 1,000 plus in our wheelhouse? So,
yeah,
it's just the way it. We talked about that last night. How do our account managers even, stay focused, because they've got so many products that they've got to be responsible for in the market.
Right.
You're going here for finishing, here for tools. And finishing's broken up in multiple categories. You just got all kinds of things. So I want to move a little bit different. I'm going to move this over to project this question to Darren. What are some projects that we work on, or maybe possibly recent projects that we've worked on with Autoquip?
Well, we've partnered on many projects through the years. I mean, our partnership dates back
almost to the 30 years.
Yeah, wow, almost the 30 years. We've been working with them for years, and I think your viewers and our customers have kind of come to understand that Airpower is and wants to be more than just a parts house or an equipment dealer. We want to be a solution provider.
Correct.
So you mentioned we have thousands of suppliers, but we have very few what we call partners. And we try to partner with key suppliers in the market that help us offer unique and custom solutions to our customers, something that they can't just get from calling anybody on the street. And Autoquip has a long history of solid engineering, industry finishing knowledge, and they bring products to the market that fit unique applications. They kind of stay on top of the trends that are going on in the industry to offer products that other suppliers don't do.
Right.
And so that's really, because of that, we've partnered with them on many projects, and we also offer a lot of their standard products. They make products like day tanks that we sell. They make robot tip cleaners, and various flush systems to where they can capture the waste from a flush and pump it back to a waste facility somewhere. We've partnered on many projects. They offer everything from 2K to robotic automation, manual gun products and solutions, and it's been a good partnership between the two companies to work together.
From my takeaway from our last few meetings, where we obviously plan on these podcasts, we go over topics and what we want to talk about. I get a real sense of a partnership between our two companies. That's not so much, hey, Autoquip, I need product X. Can you ship that to me? It's more of like, hey, Mike, or your team, here's our challenge.
Right.
Here's what the customer needs to do. How do we achieve that together? Let's put our heads together and figure out what the solution is. Yep. It's a very solutions-oriented partnership versus a product partnership, like, send me part number XYZ,
Correct.
So there's a lot to that. I mean, there's a lot of time invested with two companies over 30 years, plus. So that's awesome. Let's see here. Well, Darren, you just covered that really well. Yes, I am using an outline. Trust me for this one. So let's talk about, I want to talk about the Gun Governor. We had some conversations about that, and I have something up here that I refer to. Yeah, let's understand something. Most podcasts I know a lot about the subject matter. This particular podcast is something where this has been a learning for me the whole time we've been talking about the products that you carry. So, I've told Darren, by all means, man, take it over. Just handle the topic. But when we move into the product of the AQ Gun Governor, I really want you to focus on, you guys just have that conversation about this product.
Well, talking about solutions is, when we're visiting with our customers, we're seeing, it seems like no matter where you go, whether it's paint, powder, customers, anybody that finishes product, we're seeing several trends in the industry. We're seeing that it's very difficult to find personnel,
Yep.
And our customers are really challenged with finding, operators to go into the spray booth and have knowledge of the finishing industry.
Yep.
So many of the guys that have been in the industry for 20 years or 15, 20 years that have that knowledge of what pressure they need to spray, and not only what pressure they need to spray, but why do they need to be spraying at these pressures, whether that be air pressures or fluid pressures or whatever the setting may be for their application. When they lose one of those employees who's been, he retires and moves on after a 15, 20-year career of spraying in the industry, we don't have a good group that's coming up so far behind them that, has that knowledge yet. Somehow we're losing some of that industry knowledge. And so, because of that, you mentioned the Gun Governor. And, this is what I think Autoquip tries to do, is to come out with products that can help with identify some of the process parameters, whether it be in the spray side or the pumping side of the business, that help to standardize and fill in some of that knowledge that maybe, they may not have yet. And Mike can probably elaborate more on how that product helps fill that gap a little.
Yep.
Right. Well, it actually goes back to the late 90s and an Airpower Autoquip contract. It was in Tennessee. I don't even remember the customer's name, but it was a high solids 1K material that was really viscosity sensitive versus temperature. And so the original Gun Governor was born from making a handgun flow control that would adjust the pressures according to the flow rate, so that the customer, they sprayed outboard. It was an outboard or an inboard motor manufacturer,
right?
And they had a terrible time with the sprayers being able to handle the change in viscosity, because a pressure regulator doesn't really understand viscosity. So we added the flow meter and the control so that it would keep the flow rate, maximum flow rate, the same. So that's the first thing with what we call the Gun Governor, is it's a handgun flow control, but it controls the maximum flow. So the operator can feather as much as they want. It can be lower than the maximum flow, but like the governor on a truck, that no matter how hard you push to the floor, the truck goes no faster. The same with the Gun Governor. If your trigger is fully pulled, you're going to get whatever the flow rate is set for the machine. So that was a early version of it, and like a lot of Autoquip standard products, it came from a specific customer need, was developed for that customer to solve a specific problem, but then was identified as a good tool for the future.
Absolutely.
So we sell many more of these in Mexico because there's many more hand sprayers in Mexico. A lot of the production lines now are robotics and would be not a Gun Governor, but a different type of Autoquip flow control system.
So the Gun Governor allows you to set the appropriate pressures, both air pressures and fluid pressures, the optimal pressures for spraying a particular product. And then if the operator's presented with a different size product, they can have another, I'm going to call it recipe, that has a different set of optimal pressures for that product. So instead of the operator needing to know exactly what each one of those pressures are and be able to repeat that, all he has to do is pick up the gun and spray.
Right. Yep. It's the fluid pressure really determines the size of fan that you're going to get. I mean, you can adjust fan size with a handgun smaller, but really it's like 20 cc's an inch. If you have 100 cc's of flow, you typically have a 5-inch fan. So in a manual system, no controls, the operator sprays with the fan that he has. So if you run a smaller part than the operating fan, you're putting a lot of overspray into the filters.
I think we've all seen that big cloud in the booth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
At $150 a gallon paint, that can get costly.
Yeah, well, it's if you were painting with a roller, you wouldn't use a 15-inch roller to roll a 3-inch part. Now, fortunately, with the roller, the paint stays in the roller, but when you're using a 15-inch fan on the spray gun to paint a 4-inch part, the transfer efficiency is really, really poor.
Right.
So the Gun Governor offers as standard 99 recipes, and it has the ability to communicate to other smart industrial automation equipment. So in the most sophisticated lines, as the part comes into the booth, the gun automatically changes to the next size fluid and fan. And those customers have seen 40% transfer efficiency improvement. I don't think the technician gets out the door on the installation and the product is paid for.
Right. So many of our applications, when you go from that large product to a smaller product, as you mentioned, you need to reduce the amount of paint or pattern size. So when you reduce the amount of paint coming out, you also need to reduce the amount of atomizing air, which the lower we all know that anybody that's been in the industry long understands that the lower you can spray from an atomization standpoint, the more efficient the process is, the more of the paint that coming out of that gun is actually going onto the product, and less of it into the cloud, into the filters.
You have more control in general.
More control overall in general, but what we find so many times is the operator, he sets up the gun for the worst case scenario, his largest part typically, and then when that smaller part comes in, instead of making those adjustments, because sometimes those adjustments, he may have to leave the booth to make those adjustments depending on how his equipment is set up. And instead of making those adjustments, he just goes ahead and sprays that smaller part with a massive flow rate, wide fan, and that, of course, is not a very efficient way to spray.
Not the other thing that has everything to do with what you're saying is the rise of the cost of doing business,
Absolutely.
labor force, filters that are catching the overspray. If you're, we were talking last night, if you got a part that's this big, you want a fan this big. And if you've got a part this big, you want a fan just a little bit bigger. But if you've got a part this big and you have a fan this big from the previous part and you just start spraying, it means those filters fill up quickly with excess paint, which means labor is involved with changing those filters, the cost of replacing the filters, the cost of disposing the filters. There's just, all, and the higher frequency of cleaning the booth, changing out floor paper, changing out the lighting, whatever it is. This one factor in the booth affects so many other things that if you could put a control on it, it really saves money. And you were just saying that the ROI on this, is realized rapidly.
Well, you get a better first pass yield too, and it on spray lines, if you have 3 or 4 people and they're allowed to manually adjust their spray guns, they're likely all set differently.
Right.
And so if you want to train, if you throw the 4th person in there and they're to be trained by the 3 sprayers, the 3 sprayers are all going to train them differently.
Right.
So if the one uses a smaller fan than the other, more overlap, there's just a really difficult time bringing new individuals in and training them for the spray position. And
that one thing, I've spent bulk of my career on the powder coating side, and it's you've got the person that sprays with very little powder coming out of the gun. They're very efficient to where the powder goes. And then you've got what we call dragon's breath, where they just turn, open it up wide open, and you're just one giant cloud. They're hoping something sticks.
Well, this system allows us to be able to go in and set the optimal pressures and settings for each particular part or each size of part. But then it also allows the operator control over adjusting, down from there. If it's too much pressure for a particular operator, say you have a less experienced operator step into the booth and he can't handle the 12 ounces a minute that we're spraying this part, he has the ability to easily adjust those parameters to meet his capability. But he can't go so high as to create the cloud that we're all accustomed to. The operator that wants to stand on one side of the booth and paint the product on the other side of the booth without moving.
Yep.
We've all seen that.
Definitely. I want to move on. I want to cover a couple other products or a couple other topics quickly and then move on to the last topic. Let's talk about process control of the pump. We've talked about the spray gun. Let's talk about the pump a little bit.
The Autoquip developed in around the year 2000 an airflow control. It was originally developed for HVLP guns.
Okay.
Because an HVLP gun is looking for a certain air pressure at the cap.
And anybody listening right now, that's high volume, low pressure, just in case.
And depending on the hose, you have pressure drop in the air hose from the wall to the gun. And if you operate under pressure, you can have a different pressure at the cap. If you have a pressure regulator at the wall, the pressure regulator maintains the pressure at the wall.
Okay.
Doesn't really understand how much pressure drop there is to the cap. So using this airflow device, it would maintain airflow instead of air pressure. So if you change the fitting in the gun, the regulator at the wall, the airflow regulator, would adjust the pressure up to get the right air velocity.
Okay.
So there's a number of things that we use that for. Again, it was originally for HVLP gun, but there's many customers that have circulation systems with multiple colors and a different usage of the colors per a 24-hour period or per the week. So let's just say you have 10 colors, and those colors are, you have a one-shift operation and you spray each one of the colors once a day, so a little less than an hour for each one. So all the time that using a pressure regulator, like with the HVLP gun, you would have those pumps under pressure, what I would call spray pressure, the pressure it's necessary to deliver the coating to the tip at an adequate pressure to spray. And you would have the pump at a pressure high enough that the coating would typically circulate through a back pressure regulator back to the supply. So out of the pump, through the lines, pressure regulator. But it's doing nothing. It's under pressure, and it's going through this back pressure regulator, which is holding the pressure back, keeping the pump from running off, and shearing the paint. So if you continued with this type of system and you opened the back pressure regulator up to relieve the pressure so you didn't need as much pump pressure, the pump would run off. It would run at many strokes more than it's capable of running. So by using this airflow control regulator in conjunction with a pressure regulator, we made what we call a pump flow control. So the pump flow control takes a signal from an airflow switch or a color valve or something to tell it that it should be, the pumping system should be in spraying mode. If it's in spraying mode, you want that pressure, you want the back pressure regulator closed, or not closed, but at modulating at spraying pressure, and the coating will go to the gun in the pressure that you're looking for. But if you're not using it, which is almost all the time in the example that I gave, you can change that signal, and that will remove the pressure regulator from the supply of the pump and insert instead a velocity regulator. So now it isn't controlling by pressure, it's controlling by air velocity. The back pressure regulator can be opened then, and when it's in velocity mode, and the pump air pressure to the pump is greatly reduced. We say 50%, but depending on the viscosity, it could be much more than 50%. So you have a 50% savings or better in air, and you have paint that's not being sheared. Well, why do you want paint being sheared? A lot of paints are metallics, especially like silver, big, huge metallic flake going through that back pressure regulator. It'll eventually bend the flakes and change the color. When you could see a silver get dark, or a blue, other metallics change color, so that the customer struggles with process.
Right.
So when you're throwing away silver paint at $250 a gallon, it doesn't take very much.
But even if you're not using metallics, your pump flow control can help the customer save a lot on energy cost, because we're lowering the pump cycles per minute. We're reducing the operation, the pressure on the system, so it takes less air to operate the pumps when they're not in production use.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the easy thing for the customer to do is just on and off, when they're not spraying, take the back pressure, turn the pump pressure to zero, relieve the pressure on the back pressure regulator, and then start to increase the pump pressure until you get the cycle rate that you're looking for.
Right.
And then that would tell you how much air savings you're going to get. But it's more than air savings. I mean, when the pumps are under pressure, there's more pressure against the seals. There's more pump maintenance,
wear and tear, repairs of the equipment.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. And the beauty of it is it's all mechanical. There's no electronics. It's really a easy DIY project. You could probably convert one in an hour or two.
There's a strong push in today's market to use electric pumps in pump kitchens, and that's that is a trend. But this allows you a lot of the by installing this on a customer's existing pneumatic pump system, and there's thousands of those in the industry. By installing one of these simple devices on there, it allows many of the benefits of an electric pump, and with a much lower cost to get started. And the ROI is there from various savings, as you mentioned.
Oh yeah, I in most cases the electric pump drive circuitry takes more energy than what a pump running with zero back pressure is running at 20 psi and maybe 2 or 3 SCFM of flow.
Sure.
And if you take the electric pumps, the drive circuitry required to spin the pump consumes more energy than that.
Right.
All right. You mentioned a word that got me thinking about our next topic.
Okay.
We've got a couple more topics to go. We're going to speed it up because we're at that time. In the paint kitchen, let's talk about agitation control.
Sure.
All
right. Just very quickly go over some agitation control topics with this partnership.
It's another DIY kind of deal where Autoquip makes 4 different what we call air engines. It's a piston air motor. We call it an air engine because it looks like a rotary. It's a 3-cylinder rotary engine. The beauty of it is it doesn't require any lubrication at all, which most motors that spin agitators do. So you don't have any worry about contamination. it only has 4 moving parts in the whole thing. It's really a unique design. The air valve that powers the pistons is built into the shaft of the motor, so it's directing the air to and from the pistons. And you can buy any number of kits that will go to pressure pots, to tanks, to totes, drums, in barrel agitation. It's really an easy thing. You're looking at a minimum of a reduction of air of 10 times. So think 10 of these spinning for one. You take a mix room with 20 agitators, or a paint shop and 20 agitators, that's likely 100 horsepower air compressor running 24/7.
And we know that air is one of the most expensive resources in a plant.
Just one agitator is typically 20 to 30 CFM of air for a traditional vane style motor, and these rotary piston style agitators, drives, you're looking at more in the 2 to 5 CFM.
Wow.
So we've had customers actually shut down compressors.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they were running multiple compressors to keep up with just the demand of the agitators in a pump room, and they've been able to turn off a compressor, a backup, or make it a backup.
So you guys get involved in compressed air studies as well, right?
We do.
I know we do.
Sure.
Quite a bit of that.
Yeah, and we partner in that too. But if you have a paint shop with 10 circulation systems, 10 agitators, this is really a fast fast ROI and
ROI superstar at that point.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And to add to it, the velocity control, that same air velocity control, is used with our piston agitator motors, so that it will keep a constant torque regardless of the level of the tank or the barrel. And so that actually makes it a lot more efficient, because if you start with a cold barrel of paint, use an example for another process problem with an operator. You start with a cold barrel of paint. You set, if you have just pressure regulation, you set the air pressure for that cold barrel of paint, and they pump out of it. That barrel slowly gets pumped out of, and the paint warms up. Your agitation speed, just using a pressure regulator, is around, it'll triple. And with the airflow control, it keeps it the same regardless of the torque requirements. So it's really, you'll start, maybe that piston motor, that air engine has 40 or 50 pounds on it while it's turning that cold barrel of paint, but by the time it gets down to the bottom, it might have 5.
Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of topics today. Do you guys want to add any final? I do want to say this before that. If you do, the tail end of this, we talked about compressed air. If you're interested in a compressed air study, I know we do that on a number of different levels. Just the regular piping, the compressors themselves, whatever. But we can actually help you with a compressed air study. And I know our two companies together can go in and do that.
Well, not just compressed air, but just finishing in general. I mean, in other words, if you're having, I hope if nothing else, everyone listening to this understands that if you're having challenges or seeing issues in your current finishing line, give us a call, because we have a lot of resources within our company, but also many good partners such as Mike, we can come into our customer facility, evaluate your processes, and we have many tools available to us that may be able to
Absolutely.
to offer you a good solution to allow you to run your system more efficiently.
Absolutely. If you want to make that call, 1-800-334-1001, you will get someone from customer service on the line, and just say, I need to talk to an account manager to get started on some support we need in our plant. and have another set of eyeballs or multiple sets of eyeballs in our plant, helping us figure out where we need to go from here to get where we want to go. Okay, so Mike, thank you so much for coming down here and having a great time with us.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Dinner was great last night. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was good.
If you're ever in the High Point area, Blue Water Grill is a fantastic restaurant. So, Darren, as always, thank you very much. Remember, airpower-usa.com. If you want to know more about Autoquip, click on our resources and our brands page and click on that Autoquip logo and you'll get more information about them. Airpower-usa.com is where you find that. And for the podcasts, Airpower Airwaves is where you need to go, airpowerairwaves.com. And let's just close this out by saying what I always say, manufacture it a great day.
Thank you for joining the Airpower Airwaves podcast. Airpower Airwaves is a production of Airpower Inc. and Airpower Live Studios and is hosted by Travis Stirewalt. For more information, please visit airpowerairwaves.com. For more information on all of our products, brands, and manufacturing solutions, please visit airpower-usa.com. If you have any questions or need product support, please contact Airpower at 1-800-334-1001.